A ruthless manager fired a pregnant cashier in front of a packed store just because she couldn't scan items fast enough. He thought he was teaching her a lesson. He didn't know the quiet man watching from aisle 4 was Chicago's most dangerous crime boss, and he was deeply obsessed. The fluorescent lights of Barton's premium grocery on Chicago's West Side always hummed with a low, oppressive buzz. For Mia Sullivan, 24 weeks pregnant and barely holding her life together, that hum was the soundtrack to her daily survival. It was a bitter Tuesday in late November. The wind coming off Lake Michigan whipped against the glass storefront, but inside the air was stifling. Mia stood at register 3, her lower back screaming in protest, with every item she dragged across the scanner. Her ankles were swollen over the edges of her worn-out sneakers, and the dull, persistent ache in her pelvis served as a constant reminder of the life growing inside her, and the daunting reality of raising it alone. The baby's father, a deadbeat mechanic named Tommy, had packed his bags the day she showed him the positive test from the clinic. Mia didn't have the luxury of grief. She had rent due on a cramped apartment over on Darman Avenue and mounting bills from Northwestern Memorial Hospital for her prenatal care under Dr. Aris Miller. Barton's paid a meager $15 an hour, but it was the only place that had hired her when her bump started showing. Her survival, however, was constantly threatened by Greg Henderson. Greg was the store manager, a petty tyrant with a clipboard and a complex. He treated the grocery store like a military boot camp, obsessing over items per minute metrics and corporate efficiency quotas. He despised Mia. To him, her pregnancy wasn't a natural part of life. It was a glaring liability, a drain on his precious checkout speeds. "Sullivan, you're lagging again." Greg's voice barked over the intercom, loud enough for the customers in line to hear. Mia flinched, her cheeks burning with humiliation. She glanced up to see Greg leaning against the customer service desk, tapping his watch. "The scanner isn't a toy. Move it along. We have a queue backing up into the dairy aisle." Mia bit the inside of her cheek, swallowing the sharp retort, threatening to spill from her lips. "Sorry, Greg. The barcode on this organic chicken is smudged." "Excuses don't ring up the register." He sneered loud enough to draw stares from a woman holding a basket of avocados. Mia manually punched in the 12-digit code, her fingers trembling slightly. She was exhausted, the kind of bone-deep exhaustion that sleep couldn't fix. She just needed to make it to her 15-minute break. Then the bell above the automatic doors chimed, and the atmosphere in the store subtly shifted. He walked in exactly as he did every Tuesday and Friday, at 4 p.m., Leo Castiglione. To the casual observer, Leo was just a wealthy businessman. He wore perfectly tailored charcoal wool overcoats, crisp white shirts, unbuttoned perfectly at the collar, and carried an aura of absolute, terrifying stillness. He was in his late 30s, with sharp, aristocratic features, dark eyes that missed nothing, and a faint silver scar cutting through the edge of his left eyebrow. But the neighborhood knew better. The whispers in the break room were terrified and hushed. Castiglione. The name belonged to a family that controlled the shipping ports, the real estate developments, and a massive underground syndicate stretching from Chicago to New York. He wasn't just connected, he was the head of the entire operation. Yet twice a week, this apex predator walked into a mid-tier grocery store just to buy an apple a jar of imported honey or a single black coffee from the bakery counter. And he always, without fail, checked out at register 3. Mia watched him move through the produce section. He didn't browse like the other customers. He moved with deliberate purpose, the crowds naturally parting for him, as if sensing the danger radiating off his broad shoulders. 2 large men in dark suits, his bodyguards, Paulie and Declan, always lingered near the entrance, their eyes scanning the parking lot. Leo picked up a single Honeycrisp apple and walked toward Mia's lane. He ignored the open register with no line and stood patiently behind 3 older women with overflowing carts. When it was finally his turn, Mia's heart did that strange, anxious flutter. It always did. "Good afternoon, Mia," Leo said. His voice was a low, resonant baritone that sent a shiver down her spine. It was smooth, but edged with gravel. "Hi, Mr. Castiglione," she replied, her voice soft. She reached for the apple, weighing it on the scanner. "Leo," he corrected her, as he always did. His dark eyes flicked down to her name tag, then to the swell of her stomach beneath the awful polyester apron. A strange, unreadable emotion crossed his face. "You look tired today." "Just a long shift." Mia offered a fragile smile, trying to ignore the shooting pain in her lower back. "The holiday rush is starting early." Leo's jaw tightened. He glanced over his shoulder, his gaze locking onto Greg Henderson, who was pacing near the registers. The temperature in the immediate vicinity seemed to drop 10 degrees. "Your manager. He was shouting at you again." It wasn't a question. It was a dangerous observation. "He's just stressed about corporate metrics," Mia said, quickly, not wanting to cause trouble. "That'll be $1.40. Leo pulled a crisp $100 bill from a silver money clip and placed it on the counter. "Keep the change, Mia. Buy something for the baby." "Leo, I can't take this," Mia whispered, panic rising in her chest. Greg strictly forbade cashiers from accepting tips, viewing it as a fireable offense. "Please, it's too much." Leo leaned in, closer, his heavy cologne, sandalwood, and expensive leather washing over her. "I don't take money back once it leaves my hand. Hide it. And if that manager speaks to you like a dog again, you let me know." Before Mia could argue, Leo took his apple and walked away, his presence lingering in the cold air long after the automatic doors slid shut. Mia quickly shoved the $100 bill into her shoe, her heart pounding. She didn't understand why a man who could buy and sell the entire city was so fixated on a pregnant, broke cashier. She only knew that when he looked at her, she felt entirely safe. But that safety was an illusion, one that Greg Henderson was about to shatter completely. Friday, December 2nd. The store was a madhouse. A brutal winter storm was forecasted to hit Chicago over the weekend, sending the entire neighborhood into a panicked frenzy of panic buying. Carts were overflowing with bread, milk, and canned goods. The lines stretched deep into the aisles, and the fluorescent lights seemed to buzz louder than ever. Mia had been standing on her feet for 6 hours straight. Her authorized break was supposed to happen an hour ago, but Greg had coldly denied it, citing the store's all-hands-on-deck emergency protocol. "Nobody sits until the lines are cleared. Sullivan..." Greg had snapped when she asked for 5 minutes to drink some water. "Pregnancy isn't a disability. Work through it." By 5:30, PM Mia was running on fumes. Her vision was blurring at the edges, and a sharp, stabbing pain. Braxton Hicks contractions, doctor. Miller had warned her was wrapping around her abdomen. She gripped the edge of the conveyor belt, taking a ragged breath. Her current customer was a woman draped in expensive fur, aggressively tapping her manicured nails against her purse. "Can you move any slower?" the woman snapped. "I have a dinner reservation in Lincoln Park in 45 minutes. "I'm sorry, ma'am. I'm going as fast as I can." Mia gasped, scanning a heavy glass jar of imported marinara sauce, but her hands were shaking. As she lifted the jar to place it in the bag, a fresh wave of pain shot through her stomach. Her grip faltered. The heavy glass slipped from her fingers. Crash! The jar shattered violently against the linoleum floor. Thick red sauce splattered across Mia's shoes, the customer's boots, and the checkout lane. The woman shrieked, jumping back. "Look what you did! My boots are ruined, you incompetent idiot!" The noise cut through the chaotic hum of the store. Within seconds, Greg Henderson was storming down the aisle, his face purple with rage. "What the hell is going on here?" Greg roared, looking at the mess, and then glaring at Mia, who was leaning heavily against the register, clutching her stomach. I dropped it. I'm sorry, Greg. I had a cramp." A cramp. Greg cut her off, his voice echoing loudly enough to silence the surrounding registers. "You shattered a $20 jar of sauce because you had a cramp. I am sick of your excuses, Sullivan." "Greg, please, I just need to sit down for a minute." "No, you don't need to sit down. You need to leave." Greg stepped closer, pointing a thick finger an inch from her face. "I told corporate you were a mistake. You're too slow, you're clumsy, and you're costing me money. Pack your things, Mia. You're fired. Right here, right now." Tears sprang to Mia's eyes. The public humiliation was suffocating. Customers were staring, whispering. "Greg, please!" She begged, her voice cracking. "I need this job. I have the baby coming. I have rent." "Not my problem," Greg sneered, crossing his arms. "I need cashiers, not incubators. Grab a mop, clean up your mess, and get out of my store." "She isn't cleaning up a damn thing." The voice sliced through the tension like a straight razor. It wasn't loud, but it possessed a terrifying, commanding weight that froze the blood in Greg's veins. The crowd parted instantly. Leo Castiglione stepped to the front of Register 3. He wasn't wearing his overcoat today, just a tailored black suit that emphasized the broad, violent lines of his shoulders. His bodyguards, Paulie and Declan, stood silently 10 feet back, their hands resting ominously inside their jackets. Leo didn't look at Greg. His dark, furious eyes were locked on Mia. He took in her pale face, her trembling hands, and the tears spilling down her cheeks. "Leo," Mia whispered instinctively, taking a step toward him. Leo reached across the counter, his large, warm hand gently gripping her shaking wrist. "Are you in pain?" "Mia," he asked softly, completely ignoring the stunned manager. I'm okay," she choked out. Greg, recovering his bravado, puffed out his chest. "Excuse me, sir, this register is closed, and this is an internal employee matter. Step back." Leo finally turned his head to look at Greg. The look in the Mafia boss's eyes was so dead, so utterly devoid of human warmth, that Greg physically recoiled. "You fired her," Leo stated. It wasn't a question. "She destroyed store property and is incapable of meeting quotas." Greg stammered, his voice losing its confident edge. "I'm the manager here. I decide who works. Now back away before I call security." Leo let out a low, dark chuckle that made the hair on the back of Mia's neck stand up. "Security," Leo mused. He slowly reached into the inner pocket of his suit jacket and pulled out a sleek black smartphone. "Tell me, Greg, who owns this particular chain of Barton's, Arthur Penhaligon?" Greg answered, trying to sound authoritative, but failing miserably. "Corporate is based in New York, and they back my decisions." Leo dialed a single digit on his phone and put it to his ear. The entire store was dead silent, save for the hum of the refrigerators. "Arthur," Leo said into the phone, his voice deceptively casual. "It's Leo Castiglione. Yes, I'm well. Listen to me closely. You own the Bartons on Lincoln Avenue in Chicago. I want it." Greg's jaw dropped. The wealthy woman in the fur coat gasped and backed away. Leo listened for a moment, his eyes never leaving Greg's sweating face. "I don't care about the quarterly margins, Arthur. I want the deed transferred to Castiglione Holdings by Monday morning. Name your price, double it, and send the paperwork to my lawyers. Or I'll have the Port Authority embargo every shipping container of imported goods your entire franchise relies on." A long pause. "Good doing business with you, Arthur." Leo hung up the phone and slipped it back into his pocket. He looked at Greg, tilting his head slightly. The predator had caught its prey. "You don't work for Arthur Penhaligon anymore." Greg, Leo said, his voice dropping to a lethal whisper, you work for me. And as the new owner of this establishment, I'm instituting a change in management. Greg's face drained of all color. You can't just buy a grocery store over a fired cashier. I just did, Leo said smoothly. He stepped around the register, walking right through the spilled marinara sauce, and stood inches from Greg's face. You fired her publicly. You humiliated her. You put her and her child under immense stress. So here is what is going to happen, Greg. Leo leaned in, dropping his voice so only Greg and Mia could hear. You are going to apologize to her. Then you are going to get down on your hands and knees, and you are going to clean up this sauce. When you are finished, you will pack your desk and you will never set foot in the city of Chicago again. Because if I ever see you near Mia Sullivan again, I won't buy the building you're standing in. I'll bury you under it. Greg was trembling so violently, he looked like he might collapse. He looked into Leo's eyes and saw exactly what the underworld of Chicago already knew. Leo Castiglione did not make empty threats. I apologize, Mia. Greg choked out, tears of absolute terror forming in his eyes. Leo pointed a scarred finger at the floor. The mop, Greg. Now, as the former tyrant scrambled to the janitorial closet, stripped of his power and dignity, Leo turned back to Mia. The cold, violent mask melted away, replaced by a devastatingly gentle expression. He took his coat off and draped it over her trembling shoulders. Come on, Mia, Leo said softly, guiding her away from the register. You're done working here. I'm taking you to the hospital to get that baby checked, and then we're going to have a long talk about your future. The sleek, armored Bentley flew down Lakeshore Drive, cutting through the biting Chicago winds. Inside the spacious cabin, the silence was thick. Mia sat wrapped in Leo's heavy wool overcoat, the lingering scent of sandalwood and danger acting as a strange, calming anchor. Her hands instinctively protected her swollen belly as she watched the city lights blur past the tinted windows. At Northwestern Memorial Hospital, Leo didn't wait in the lobby. He flanked Mia directly into the maternity triage, his presence instantly parting the sea of waiting patients. When a triage nurse tried to hand them a clipboard and pointed toward the waiting room, Leo simply leaned over the desk and murmured a few words. Within 60 seconds, Mia was in a private room. Dr. Aris Miller, Mia's regular obstetrician, arrived looking visibly flustered, flanked by the imposing figures of Paulie and Declan standing guard at the door. After a thorough ultrasound and monitoring, Dr. Miller let out a sigh of relief. The baby is perfectly fine, Mia, Dr. Miller said, glancing nervously at the silent, brooding Mafia boss leaning against the wall. But you are experiencing severe stress-induced Braxton Hicks. Your blood pressure is elevated. If you keep pushing yourself like this, you risk going into preterm labor. You need absolute rest. She will have it, Leo stated, his voice brooking no argument. He didn't ask. He decreed. An hour later, instead of taking her back to her drafty, crumbling apartment on Damen Avenue, the Bentley pulled up to a heavily fortified luxury high-rise on Astor Street in the Gold Coast. Leo, I can't stay here, Mia protested weakly as they rode the private elevator up to the penthouse. I don't belong in a place like this, and I still don't understand. Why did you buy a grocery store for me? Why are you doing any of this? The elevator doors chimed and slid open, revealing a sprawling, multi-million-dollar penthouse with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the dark expanse of Lake Michigan. It was cold, modern, and impeccably clean, a stark reflection of the man who lived there. Leo guided her to a plush velvet sofa and knelt on the hardwood floor in front of her, uncaring of the expensive fabric of his suit pants. He looked up at her, the harsh lines of his face softening. Because I owe you the truth, Mia. Leo began, his dark eyes locking onto hers. The terrifying predator from the grocery store was gone, replaced by a man bearing a heavy confession. I didn't just happen to walk into Barton's Premium Grocery 2 months ago. I was looking for you. Mia's breath hitched. Looking for me? How could you possibly know who I am? Leo's jaw tightened. Because of Tommy. The name hit Mia like a physical blow. Tommy. The deadbeat mechanic. The man who had laughed in her face when she told him she was pregnant, and then vanished into the Chicago night. What does Tommy have to do with you? Tommy didn't just run out on you, Ka. Leo explained, his voice low and dangerous. He ran from my syndicate. He was laundering money through his auto shop for one of my lieutenants. 3 months ago, he skimmed $300,000 off a shipment and disappeared. In my world, you don't steal from the Castiglione family and get to keep breathing. Mia covered her mouth, her eyes wide with horror. She was suddenly acutely aware of the violent reality of the man kneeling before her. You were tracking him through me. Initially, yes. Leo admitted, not breaking eye contact. He refused to lie to her. My men found out about his pregnant girlfriend. I started coming to the store to see if he would reach out to you, to see if you were hiding him or hiding the money. I didn't know, Mia whispered, tears welling in her eyes. I swear to you, Leo, I haven't seen him since the day I took the test. He left me with nothing. I know, Leo said softly, reaching up to gently wipe a tear from her cheek with his thumb. It took me exactly 2 days of watching you to realize you were entirely innocent. I watched you stand on your feet for 10 hours a day. I watched you count pennies to buy prenatal vitamins. I watched that arrogant manager scream at you while you carried another man's child, doing everything in your power to survive. Leo's eyes darkened, a possessive fire burning in his irises. I came to that store as a predator looking for a thief, but watching you, it changed me. I found myself counting the hours until I could see you again. I found myself wanting to rip the throat out of anyone who spoke down to you. The debt Tommy owes me meant nothing anymore. All that mattered was making sure you were safe. Mia stared at him, her heart hammering against her ribs. The most dangerous man in Chicago was kneeling at her feet, confessing a dark, twisted, yet overwhelmingly protective devotion. You're safe now, Mia, Leo promised, his hand resting gently on her swollen stomach. This is your home. You will never want for anything again. And as for Tommy, he is a ghost. He will never touch you or this child. But in the criminal underworld, ghosts have a nasty habit of returning from the dead. 3 weeks passed. True to his word, Leo transformed Mia's life into a gilded fortress. She had a private chef, the finest medical care, and a nursery being designed by top decorators. More importantly, the Barton store had been completely gutted and rebranded under new management, with her former co-worker Brenda promoted to general manager and a strict policy prioritizing employee well-being. The title deed for the entire property sat in a safe legally registered in Maya's name. But the peace was a fragile illusion. It happened on a snowy Thursday afternoon. Mia had insisted on visiting the store to see the renovations accompanied by Declan. She missed the neighborhood, and she wanted to thank Brenda personally. Declan was waiting by the armored SUV in the back alley, while Mia stepped out the rear employee exit, buttoning her coat. A hand clamped down over her mouth, dragging her backward into the shadows between 2 dumpsters. Mia thrashed wildly, screaming against the filthy, calloused hand. Shut up, it's me!" A desperate, raspy voice hissed in her ear. Mia's blood ran cold. She recognized the smell of stale beer and motor oil. She bit down hard on the hand tasting blood and shoved backward. Tommy stumbled back, clutching his bleeding fingers. He looked terrible. His face was gaunt, his eyes darting frantically, and he was shivering in a thin jacket. "Tommy!" Mia gasped, clutching her stomach, panic flooding her system. "What are you doing here? Are you insane? I need your help, Mia," Tommy begged, stepping toward her. "The Castiglione crew is hunting me. I heard the rumors on the street. I heard the boss himself bought this store for you. You're sleeping with him, aren't you? You're his new pet. Don't you dare!" Mia spat, stepping back, her fear morphing into burning anger. "You abandoned us. You left me to starve." "I didn't have a choice," Tommy sneered, grabbing her wrist roughly. "Listen to me. If he likes you, you can get the money. You can get me the 300 grand. Tell him to call off the hit mayor. If you don't, I'll go to the cops. I'll tell them about him, about his operations. I'll take you down with me." "You wouldn't even make it to the precinct." The voice was a death knell in the snowy alley. Tommy froze, dropping Mia's wrist as if it burned him. Slowly he turned around. Leo Castiglione stood at the end of the alley, blocking the only exit. Declan and Paulie flanked him, their weapons already drawn and leveled directly at Tommy's chest. Leo wore his charcoal overcoat, his hands casually resting in his pockets, but his eyes were black pits of absolute rage. "Leo." Mia breathed, her knees trembling. Leo didn't look at her. He didn't want her to see the violence he was about to unleash. "Declan, secure Mia. Put her in the car." "No, wait!" Tommy shrieked, backing against the brick wall. "Castiglione, please, I can get the money, I just need time." Declan quickly moved forward, ushering a shaking Mia toward the warm SUV, but she couldn't look away. Leo walked slowly toward the mechanic, his leather shoes crunching softly in the fresh snow. "You stole from my family, Thomas. That carries a penalty. But that isn't why you're going to die today." Leo stopped a few feet away. He pulled his right hand from his pocket. He wasn't holding a gun. He was holding a sleek silver switchblade. "You touched her!" Leo whispered, his voice trembling with a terrifying, barely contained fury. "You abandoned your child, you left her to rot, and then you dared to lay your hands on her in my city. Please, I'm the father, it's my kid." Tommy cried, tears streaming down his dirty face. Leo stopped. A cruel, cold smile played on his lips. With his left hand, he reached into his inner coat pocket and pulled out a folded legal document, tossing it into the snow at Tommy's feet. "Those are termination of parental rights forms," Leo said coldly. "You are going to sign them. You are going to sign away any legal claim you have to Mia and that baby." Tommy looked down at the papers, then up at the blade in Leo's hand. "And if I do, will you let me live?" "If you sign it," Leo said, his voice devoid of mercy. "My men will put you on a cargo ship bound for Eastern Europe tonight. You will never return to the United States. If you ever try to contact Mia, if you ever breathe her name, I won't send my men. I will hunt you down myself." Tommy dropped to his knees in the snow, frantically searching his pockets for a pen. Paulie tossed him one. With shaking hands, Tommy signed his rights away, crying as the ink bled into the damp paper. Leo picked up the document, inspecting the signature before tucking it away. He looked down at the pathetic man. "Take him to the docks," Leo ordered his men. "Make sure he gets on the ship." Leo turned his back on Tommy and walked toward the SUV. He opened the back door and slid in next to Mia, pulling her immediately into his chest. She was trembling, tears streaming down her face, but she didn't pull away. She clung to his lapels, burying her face in his neck. "It's over," Leo murmured, kissing the top of her head, his hands rubbing soothing circles on her back. "He's gone, Mia. He will never hurt you again." You made him sign the papers," she whispered. "He was never a father. Leo said fiercely. He was a sperm donor. This child... Leo moved his hand to rest firmly, warmly on her belly. This child is mine now. You are mine, and I protect what is mine. Mia looked up into his dark eyes. She saw the ruthlessness, the blood on his hands, the dark empire he ruled, but she also saw absolute, unwavering devotion. She had spent her whole life fighting to survive the storm. Now she realized she had fallen in love with the storm itself. "Take us home, Leo," she whispered, resting her head against his chest. Leo smiled, a genuine, rare expression that chased the shadows from his face. "Drive," he commanded the driver. The Bentley pulled away from the snowy alley, leaving the ghosts of the past behind, carrying the Mafia boss and the former cashier toward an empire built on dark obsessions and unbreakable vows. If this dramatic twist of fate kept you on the edge of your seat, hit that like button. Share this story with someone who loves a dark, protective romance. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more thrilling, real-life-inspired audio dramas. Ring the notification bell so you never miss a chapter of our underworld sagas. Drop a comment below. What would you do if a mafia boss bought your workplace? Let us know